Sebastian attempts podcasting. Attempt number 1. Hi guys, I'm Sebastian. This feels weird. Sobrang weird sa feeling na mic lang yung kausap ko. Normally, there's a camera, there's lights, there's a soft script on what I'm going to do. Meron akong idea kung paano yung flow. Pero anyway, no one's really good at their first try. Am I right? So, please bear with me. I've always wanted to make a podcast before. I just didn't really know when or how kasi lagi akong busy noon tapos nagka-quarantine so I had time pero hindi ko pa rin yung ginawa. Ngayon nasa college na ako, I'm like, oh, bakit hindi ako magawa ng podcast kasi magawa ng modules ko? No, wag niyo ako ganyan support na yun. Anyway, since first podcast ko to, I don't really want to cut this one. Parang gusto ko, parang nag-uusap lang tayo, walang cuts kasi first podcast. So if I make a mistake, I'm just gonna repeat kasi I don't want to sound like an idiot. So, ayun. As much as possible, hindi ko to i-cut. Pero syempre, kailangan ko to tingnan uli mamaya pag ina-edit ko kasi I don't want to sound like an idiot. Pero for the most part, I'm gonna try my best not to edit this one. So, I made this podcast because I wanted the platform where I can talk more. I know YouTube's there, but you see, YouTube is so different from podcasts. You know, it's really different because when you're on YouTube, you have tons of things that you can do on a video. You can add video effects, you can add sound effects, you can add text. But when you're listening to a podcast, it's completely different because there's no visuals on what they're talking about. There's no emotions or parang tawag dito. Wait lang, what do you call this? Walang tawag dito. Yung ginagawa pag reaction, yon sorry, nagulat ata kayo dun. Walang reaction, like yung vocal na boses ko na, ay, exciting to, ay, malungkot to, ay, parang parang chill lang yung vibe. Pero in a podcast, yung emotion lang sa voice, yung mararamdaman nyo, you can't really tell how you can't really tell how the person looks like sa ganong state nila, like masaya ba sila, malungkot ba sila, ano yung nangyayari. It depends on their voice, and my voice tends to sound monotonous minsan, kaya ayun, kung papanorin yung videos ko, madaming edits doon na medyo magulo, pero it gives my video more substance. Does that make sense? Okay, so for today's topic, I was contemplating if I should talk about my experience with senior high or just talk about na parang magtropa lang tayo na nag-usap like at 2 a.m. or something. So, I decided na pag-usapan na lang yung mga bagay na normally pinag-uusapan ng friends. I'm gonna start with one that you don't necessarily like to talk about because it freaks you out. It's uncertainty. So, ang podcast na to, I want my viewers or my audience to feel like I'm with them. I mean, not in a creepy way na parang weird na creepy na matandang lalaki, but in a way na parang magkakaibigan lang tayo lahat dito, tapos ako yung kaibigan mong tahimik lang, pero ito yung first time mo ko mapakinggan dumaldal, so parang magugulat ka na parang, oh, yun pala yung nasa isip niya, kasi no tea, no shade. Okay, yak, ang weird, ang yak ng words na yun, no tea, no shade, yak. I mean, it's so fascinating when an introvert who doesn't really talk much talks like voluntarily. Like, hindi mo sila tinatanong, they suddenly just open up and they're this new species. Like, alam nyo ba kunwari, di ba nag-Pokemon kayo? Or if naglaro kayo ng Pokemon, kilala nyo ba sina PG, sina Pidgeot? Well, ito yung Pokemon na si Mewtwo na sobrang hirap mo makuha. I mean, not necessarily makuha, pero makita. Like, the side of a person is very rare. So, pag nakita mo siyang dumaldal, parang, oh, wow, ganda pa na yung personality niya. So, ayun, I just wanted to put on a disclaimer. If you're 16 below, please exit out of this podcast. I don't want to trigger anyone's identity crisis or mag-existential crisis ka. Kasi yung point of view ko, ang tingin ko, I mean, hindi naman point of view. Ang target audience ko dito is people from 17 to 24, ganon. Kasi I'm 19, so I'm still young, I think. I'm on my last year of my teenage years, so a lot's happening. So, let's start. So, okay, so ganito, imagine nyo na, kunwari walang pandemic, and then we're friends, na parang, niyaya mo ka lumabas at the middle of the night. Kunwari, district yung parents natin. Kunwari, we've been friends for years, pero ngayon lang ako nakita kasi nga, nagka-pandemic. So, imagine nyo, tapos na yung pandemic. Okay, so, it's around mga 2 a.m. The vibe, ma'am, sir. Okay, hindi bagay sa akin yung ganun. I hate that. You see, when you're growing up, no one really talks about how awkward it is. Everyone just complains because it is hard. There's no manual na parang ganito dapat yung gawin mo or dapat gayahin mo si ganyan kasi yung society kasi natin napaka narrow-headed pa. We still have a lot to go. We still have a lot to learn, to be honest, as individuals kasi we're still young, we're still figuring things out, and napapressure tayo na by 28 ikakasal na tayo, magkakaanak, magkakabahay, pero next topic na yun. Ata, no, joke, wag mo na yan. So, ayun nga. Okay, nawawala na ako sa topic, balik tayo. So, edi, nasa kotse na tayo. And then, sinundo kita. Tapos, nagpark lang tayo sa Starbucks Tagaytay. Let's say Starbucks Tagaytay kasi malamig doon. Tapos, maganda yung ilaw, maganda yung city lights. So, I grabbed my black coffee kasi ako yung nagtra-drive. Tapos, venti yun. Tapos, ikaw pa chill-chillax ka lang. Naka-ice caramel macchiato ka dyan. So, dumating na yung order nating drinks. Tapos, nag-take out tayo. Let's say, mga 5 people tayo. I'm gonna start talking. Hi. Do you ever get scared how uncertain... Shut up! Ang ingay. Hi, sorry. Ano pala? Nag-notif yung phone ko. Pero ayoko... Anyway, balik tayo. So, does it scare you minsan na at a young age, tinatanong na tayo kung anong plano natin sa buhay? I mean, syempre, the elderly at the time wouldn't take it seriously kasi isipin nyo nung bata ako, may ligaw manood ng WWE, nabutan ko sina Undertaker, sina John Cena, sino pa ba? Sina HBK, grabe si paano nang galing. So, sina Trish Stratus, ganyan. Pero looking back, bakit nila ako pinayagan manood ng WWE? I was like 5. That was inappropriate. Pero anyway, so, nung bata ako, ang sabi ko, pag tinatanong ako ng matanda, anong gusto mo pagtanda mo? Sabi ko, gusto ko maging WWE wrestler. Tapos tatawa lang sila. Ayun. So, it was really fun. Kasi bata ako, syempre, I didn't know shit. So, ayun nga. Pero fast forward, so medyo nagkiisip na ako. So, siguro mga grade 1, ganyan. So, since I'm from a family of lawyers, I've always been surrounded by people who are under the law. Lawyers, prosecutors, ano pa bang ginagawa ng mga yon? Ano pa ba? Teka, sino pa? Mga justice, mga private lawyers, mga PAO. So, I've always been exposed sa industry na yon at a young age. Even though wala ko necessarily maintindihan sa mga pinag-uusapan nila sa table namin during dinner kasi syempre may pasok. At night, me and my family would eat dinner. It's such a tricky word to say pag may business ka. Eat dinner. Eat dinner. Filipino accent point. Eat dinner. Anyway, to eat dinner. Tapos pag-usapan namin nila actually kasi syempre wala maintindihan. Mga kaso, ganyan. So, at a young age, I've always wanted to be a lawyer. Pero hindi yun yung topic sa video na yun. Sa podcast na to, sorry, hindi talaga ako sanay. Ngayon kasi, pila na ako. I'm taking up legal management. Balik tayo sa topic natin. So, nasa sasakyan tayo, diba? At a young age, tinatanong tayo kung anong gusto natin. Tapos, parang, when we grow up, mga high school, ganyan, we start to want things na parang, by this age, gusto ko ganito na yung buhay ko. At age 25, I'll find the love of my life. Tapos, magpapakasal kami, magkakaroon kami ng isang dosen ng anak. I feel like it's normal for anyone to have a thinking na may future sila na ganun. Kasi, let's face it, we all want certainty sa bagay. Pero how can you find certainty into the future? In 2018, we never thought that 2020, magiging 250,000 yung cases ng COVID. Pero look at where we're at. No one really expected 2020 to be like this. Pero, ayun, biglang boom, quarantine tayong lahat. So, paano mo masasabi na porket na plano mo siya ay mangyayari na sa'yo? So, if sabihin natin yung pinlano mo na ikasal ka by 28, ibig sabihin ba nun, pag wala ka pang jowa by 27, maghahanap ka ng jowa bago ka mag 28 sa birthday mo, tapos liligawan mo, mag-engage kayo, tapos kakasal ka sa birthday mo? No! I mean, that's an exaggerated way to say it, pero you shouldn't feel pressured by society standards or societal norms na dapat by ganito, ganito ka. Dapat by ganito, may trabaho ka na. Dapat magsettle ka sa isang lugar. Magka-kids, anak, magka-bahay, magka-kotse. Kasi that is scary. When I was in junior high, I would plan things out. Actually, na-mention ko to sa vlog ko kasama si Hans. Ayun, panoorin yun kasi parang yun yung parang pinaka-preview ng podcast na to. Parang nasa isip ko, sabi ko, so, gagraduate ako ng senior high. I was supposed to take UMS or ABM, but I took arts and design. So, after senior high, I would be 18 years old. So, let's add 4 years for pre-law, then add another 4 years for law proper, tapos another year for the bar exam. So, I would be around 27, 28. Hindi ako magaling sa math. So, nasa isip ko sa edad na yun, I would be certain with what I want. I would be this guy na makakapasa sa bar on his first take na parang I have my things figured out. I would be this guy na alam ko anong ginagawa niya. Pero look at me now. Let's say, I'm doing things na will greatly affect my future. Pero sometimes I also question if I'm doing things right. And that's what people don't really talk about kasi let's say action, ano ba tawag dito? Plans without actions are just goals. Tama ba yung sinasabi ko? Gets you ba yung reference ko? Basta parang sinasabi ko na pag wala kang gawa, walang mangyayari sa'yo. Yan yung sinasabi ko. So, I feel at a young age, we're so pressured na i-figure out na agad yung buhay natin but we're not supposed to. Imagine being a minor, tapos you're trying to figure out na saan kaya ako titira? Anong plano ko sa buhay ko? Tapos, pag senior high school ka na, graduating ka na, dapat alam mo na yung course mo. Which, gano'n naman yung ibang tao, pero ako hindi. Kasi, to think about na, dapat advertising arts ako ngayon sa UST. Pero ngayon, I'm a legal management student is insane. Kasi, it's nothing. It's barely, it's not even barely, it's not related to arts at all. You know what I mean? Kasi, nakaka-praning rin minsan isipin na college ka na. Kasi to be honest, college is completely different from high school and senior high school. Let's be honest. Senior high school was a waste of time, pero we met people that are amazing. As in, super duper amazing people. We really meet amazing people at high school, which is really fun. I've met some of my really good friends at high school, pero college is such a bitch. You know what I mean? Kasi, college, I mean, you have a few months to think about na, ganito yung course ko, ganito yung plano ko, ganito yung gagawin ko, ito yung plan ko para hindi ako bumagsak, and then boom, may minors na walang kwenta. Ewan ko kasi, ang college kasi, I expected college to be this really incredible thing, pero it's much more stressful than how it is. I mean, it is not as what I expected to. Akala ko, magdodorm ako sa college, tapos, I would meet friends, I would party, pupunta ako sa BGC, ganyan. Uy, grabe, na-miss ko BGC. So, I never really pictured myself as someone who would take college online kasi, ewan ko, kasi Socrates method rin yung iba kong subjects, pero dahil nga quarantine, hindi rin siya magawang ganun. So, balik tayo. Nawawala ako sa topic, sorry. Do you ever have days na parang napapaisip ka if tama ba yung ginagawa mo sa buhay mo? Kasi, I feel like people who peaked at high school are hirap ngayon sa college. I mean, depende. Hindi ko rin alam kasi they peaked at high school. Paglabas nila ng high school, parang wala na silang buhay or people na sobrang centered yung buhay sa high school. They tend to forget na may outside world. Again, nasa video ko to kasama si Hans. Panoorin nyo if interested kayo. Pero, yung transition from senior high school to college is insane. I mean, ako kasi malayo yung course ko nung senior high. Strand ko, sa course ko ngayon. So, arts and design, legal management, wala talaga. So, sometimes I have days na parang kina-question ko if nasa tama ba ako lugar or nasa tama ba akong course na ito ba talaga yung gusto ko. Kasi I wanted to pursue film before. I also wanted to pursue I wanted to pursue chemical engineering, which is insane to me now kasi I hate chem. Tapos, I also wanted to pursue medtech. I also wanted to pursue business intelligence and analytics. Pero, I'm in legal management. Don't you have days or nights na parang you start to second guess yourself or even question yourself in general na, am I doing things right? Am I doing things the right way? Am I doing it too fast? Am I being left out? Kasi sometimes we can't avoid comparing ourselves with other people, which is not really healthy. I try my best not to compare myself to anyone kasi everyone has a different path. Everyone has a different journey. Not everyone has the same story, diba? Like no one has the same story at all. Even magkakambal yan, kahit magkamukha yan, magkaiba yung story yan. Okay? I feel like it's so interesting itong years na to. Yung years na 18, 19, it's such a year of self-discovery. As in, you try to figure out things that you want for your future. Pero also don't think about your future too much kasi you can ruin your present. Don't think about how this, I mean, depende pa rin niya sa situation, depende. Don't do something that could ruin your future. Pero also, don't think about your future too much kasi if you think about the future, makakalimutan mo yung present eh. Kasi example, may ginagawa ka ngayon in the present na nag-enjoy ka, pero pinoproblema mo, hala, ano dapat gagawin ko sa school? That's a completely different story. But when you're doing something, example, sa ACADS, let's say nagkasabay yung ACADS mo with your lola's birthday or lolo or any important family member, it's gonna be devastating in the future knowing that you prioritized your ACADS, lalo na pag minor, na hindi mo naman necessarily kailangan. I mean, depende pa rin yun, lalo na kung major. Pero as much as possible, please avoid forgetting about what's really important kasi sometimes ACADS can go overboard. Let's be honest. Most of the time, we're so stressed out with school, lalo na ngayong online classes. Lahat tayo nangangapapa kasi wala naman settings na mag-online classes. So, parang para tayong nasa puzzle pero there's a missing piece. Pieces pala, not a piece kasi we're all still trying to figure things out. Pero this quarantine, especially now that we have more time, there's a lot of self-reflection that comes around kasi you have more time to yourself. You're alone most of the time. Either kulong ka sa kwarto mo, nag-YouTube ka, nag-Netflix, and you're not supposed to be productive all the time, okay? Take some time to rest. Huwag ka ma-pressure sa mga tao sa paligid mo na ganyan yung ginagawa, nagwa-workout. You will do shit at your own time. Kasi that's so toxic if you compare yourself to someone who's doing something different than you are. Just because you're taking a rest doesn't mean you're wasting time. Kasi self-care is not wasting time, okay? Okay, so, parang naging seryoso bigla yung usapan natin. Anyway, balik tayo. I think, what's, ano daw? What makes us human is feelings. I know this is a bit boring kasi parang may nabasa kasi ako sa ethics ko about someone's principle in ethics na parang feelings, blah blah blah, ganyan. Pero don't invalidate your feelings, okay? I know medyo nagiging pep talk na to, pero minsan kasi ang hard natin sa sarili natin eh. Na parang gusto natin laging maging ganyan, gusto natin matapos lahat, gusto natin maging productive, tapos parang gusto natin maximize lagi yung oras natin, pero we don't talk about how there are days that we just want to rest. I mean, to be honest, kung wala akong online classes, I would take time off social media, pero hindi ko siya magawa ngayon kasi I need social media for communicating with my blockmates, and profs, lalo na pag may performance task or may modules. So, ayun, ayaw maging pep talk tong first episode ko. I just wanted to give you a bigger perspective in life kasi we have days or a period of time sa buhay natin na we're so certain na ganito yung mangyayari sa future natin, and when we're at that age time na destined natin, example, I'm 28 and I'm 28 years old, tapos looking back 10 years prior to this specific moment, I've always wanted to have a family, to have a car, pero at 28, I'm enjoying life at Paris, Barcelona, I'm traveling the world, and I'm not at my dream job, pero I'm much more happier than I was before. Sana hindi kayo magka-existential crisis lang ng podcast nito, pero I just wanted to give a bigger perspective sa buhay kasi at a young age talaga, we're so pressured to have a great future when the future, what Filipinos are talking about, is getting married at 25, 26, have a stable job, have kids, pero not everyone wants kids. Not everyone wants to settle. Like, this was a good start for my podcast. It's very magulo, pero it's much more raw. And I think this gave somewhat a good POV to you guys, to how I am as a friend. Yeah, so I'll see you guys at my next podcast. For this podcast, I want you to comment down below some things that you want me to talk about. I know this one's a bit raw, pero I still hope you enjoyed. Thank you for listening. Bye, deuces.